have a telecommunication company become your financial service provider. So we've seen changes in the ecosystem as well. But one thing that is clear is that what is happening now is an evolution and the continuance of looking for better financial services, better financial products. And the question that we're having now is how do we continue to use modern technologies to make that more efficient, to address some of the gaps and some of the problems that maybe the first generation, the second or third generation did not particularly address, or capabilities did not exist then.
And so with that in mind, what I feel like as engineers we need to be focusing on, rather than just the speed aspect of stuff, is let's try have a system where the user verifies everything every time and without them even knowing it. So it looks as if they're still using the same banking system. It looks like they're still using the same Airbnb, Splitwise, Ticketmaster, whatever, you name it, that could be decentralized. They just don't realize that they're better off because they're in a much more secure because of decentralization. So to sum it up,
to make that more efficient, to address some of the gaps and some of the problems that maybe the first generation, the second or third generation did not particularly address, or capabilities did not exist then.
Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another CYPRX video banger. In today's video, I'm going to be going down the rabbit hole, explaining to you all with a series of video clips and fundamental breakdowns why I am adding the digital asset TIA, or also known as Celestia, to my crypto long-term portfolio. With that being said, none of this is financial advice. Hopefully this video breakdown encourages you all to take it upon yourself to do a little bit more research on this specific cryptocurrency project, what it is that they are attempting to do for the blockchain space, and the developments that have happened behind the scenes. With that being said, let's jump into a couple of different video breakdowns. We're going to be utilizing some clips from Jeremy Allaire and some other systemically important individuals in the crypto space and from large organizations to really break down for you guys, while reading fundamentals from Celestia, why it is that I'm adding this to my portfolio. And then towards the end of this video breakdown, I'm also going to show you guys some technical analysis showing you the risk to reward from my personal opinion and perspective based on where current price is at. So you're going to want to stick around for the entirety of this video breakdown. So let's just listen to the first couple of clips that I have to show you all from Jeremy Allaire and read in between what Jeremy Allaire says, some comparing fundamentals from Celestia from over the past consecutive couple of months. Take a second and listen.
Earlier, I started by saying that adoption is gaining traction, but there is no mass adoption yet. What would it take?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I've been through multiple generations of internet technologies, and there's sort of these kind of curves of adoption that take place. And right now, the number of users in the world that are actively connecting to blockchains and transacting and so on. There's different estimates, but it's maybe 100 to 200 million users, and how many are really active is much smaller than that. So clearly, we're not anywhere close to mass adoption right now. But I think there's three things. I think, and I think they're all happening right now, which is really exciting. So one is what we just talked about, which is legal certainty. Households and firms and financial institutions need to know that these digital currencies are, in fact, defined parts of the financial system. That's happening, and by the middle of next year, in almost every major market, we're going to have legal certainty on well-run, compliant, regulated stablecoins. That's going to be a very big deal. I'm a product guy by background and a technologist, and so I actually think the most important thing here is solving the technology problems. And there, I think there's reason for incredible optimism. What we're seeing right now is a progression of blockchain infrastructure in a number of areas. The first is just scalable, cost-efficient, more accessible kind of blockchain layers that are out there. There's just a lot of innovation that's happening there with ZK rollups and innovations in layer one blockchains.
So what is Celestia? All about TIA token. Pay attention to, while I'm rolling these video clips, the key vocabulary that Jeremy Allaire hits on. Celestia provides essential infrastructure for the development of decentralized applications and new blockchains.
Optimism. What we're seeing right now is a progression of blockchain infrastructure in a number of areas.
Celestia is a blockchain network that introduces a modular approach to the design and functionality of blockchains, unlike traditional blockchains that bundle consensus data availability and execution into a single layer. Celestia separates these functions to offer a more scalable and flexible infrastructure. If you come over here, this is recent from January 25th, 2024, launch rollups on Conduit with Celestia underneath. By using Celestia underneath, these rollups brought 10x cost savings to their users overnight and opened up the possibility of reaching 100x savings in the future.
The first is just scalable, cost-efficient, more accessible kind of blockchain layers that are out there. There's just a lot of innovation that's happening there with ZK rollups and innovations in layer 1 blockchains.
Enter alternatives like Celestia Networks propose built to be a secure and scalable data availability layer. By utilizing an Alt-DA layer, a rollup can significantly reduce operating costs while still enabling anyone to verify its transaction data. Lower fixed costs means lower barriers to entry for new rollups and better unit economics for existing ones. At Conduit, we anticipate a future in which Celestia and other data availability layers power millions of rollups, ushering in a new era of abundant block space.
That's key because we just need to be able to support applications that scale to hundreds of millions or billions of users. So that's, I think, in front of us. Solving the user experience problem, to me, is sort of the most paramount thing. For the average person to onboard into this world, they shouldn't need to know about private keys, seed phrases. They shouldn't be afraid of losing their device and losing their money. So sort of social onboarding, recoverability models that are simpler are made possible by new standards that have emerged. Similarly, users should not need to go buy a crypto commodity token to pay gas fees or even know what gas fees are. These are not normal things for people.
So Jeremy Allaire went on to hit on gas fees.
Users should not need to go buy a crypto commodity token to pay gas fees or even know what gas fees are. These are not normal things for people. So
in this specific report, it goes on to talk about how in this report, they examine how Celestia's purpose-built data availability, i.e. the DA layer, can provide Ethereum's layer 2s and layer 3s a high throughput DA solution that significantly expands their viability and accessibility for developers. We also run a cost simulation to calculate the impact of Celestia on scaling layer 2s and rollups. We were able to calculate not only that Celestia would have easily fit all rollup activity, but also to estimate potential cost savings up to $50 million in the last 6 months alone. We simulated that in a basic counterfactual existing Ethereum rollups would have saved up to 1 to 3 orders of magnitude of DA fees by publishing their data on Celestia instead. And right down here in the conclusion, it goes on to mention that Celestia provides a significantly greater throughput for Ethereum and helps make layer 2s affordable for a wider range of developers. With this initial analysis and future updates, we hope to shed some light on the basic economic impact of using Celestia for DA, demonstrating the magnitude of the cost savings possible for layer 2 developers and end users. And then here is another interesting report from, again, the beginning of this year, January 2024. Ancient Chain, the pioneering modular blockchain for Web3 games with Celestia underneath. With the Celestia integration, Ancient's data availability costs are expected to be reduced by a minimum of 100x times, effectively making gas fees on the Ancient Chain near invisible for game developers and gamers.
Similarly, users should not need to go buy a crypto commodity token to pay gas fees or even know what gas fees are. These are not normal things for people. So I've said for a while, the crypto needs to go into the background.
Now, I want you to take a second and listen to what Jeremy Allaire says about how crypto is set to be integrated into the background and become invisible. Then we're going to play some video clips from some other systemically important individuals that have spoken and said similar things on other panel discussions. And then I want to play a video clip of an individual engineer from Celestia Labs, Callum Waters, say literally the same exact thing. However, this video breakdown from Callum, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, Waters, the engineer at Celestia Labs, is updated, right, from July 21st, 2024. So literally only 2 days old. Take a second and listen.
I think when I look at the technical innovations that are coming from things like gasless transactions, smart account wallets, the user interface abstractions are going to make this totally seamless for people. And I think what you're starting to see now is leading Web 2 companies that have hundreds of millions of users are actually kind of wiring up to Web 3 infrastructure, but doing it with a user experience that's really straightforward, easy, but also safe, and still natively integrated to blockchains. And so that user experience paradigm shift and Web 2 companies coming on board with that as well, that's going to be a breakthrough. And so all those things coming together are going to make, I think, 2024 an extraordinary year for growth in the utility of this technology. And I think we're going to see significant scaling out in terms of the number of users.
But not yet. Mass adoption in 2024. You see
I
great strides
think
being made.
well, it depends on your definition of mass adoption. I think we're going to see dramatic growth in 2024. A lot of the things that are lining up in terms of the infrastructure, the usability, the standards, like there are just thousands of teams that are building on top of these things right now. And so I'm more optimistic than I've ever been about the technology progress and what we're going to see in terms of user experience. So when you get that combined, the UX, the infrastructure, and the legal clarity, that is the makings for tremendous growth. I've said for a while, the crypto needs to go into the background and the money into the foreground and the UX into the foreground. And
so, as with all things, it takes time. And, furthermore, like whilst the crypto asset class is kind of having like its winter moments and, there certainly have been a lot of mistakes happening in that industry, I think the key thing to note here is that the technology that was spawned from all of that wild experimentation and investment is here to stay. I don't know, I haven't been around that long, but I've been around long enough to know that technology never really goes back in the box. Once it's out of the box, it just keeps progressing and evolving, and it eventually becomes an integral part of our lives. And so likewise, as it relates to shared ledgers, digital assets, blockchain, like this is not going back in the box. It doesn't matter what how long this crypto winter is, this technology is out in the world. People have invested an enormous amount of money and time and talent into it. It's just gonna get better. And really what we're kind of gunning for is that it gets so good that it becomes invisible, no one talks about it anymore. I mean, it'll be bad for us because then we won't get to see you guys on stage anymore because they'll be like, blockchain, wah, 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 super boring. Like, let's not talk about it on stage because everyone's just using it like email or like websites or mobile apps, as an example.
The reality is, for me anyway, that adoption always comes from the edges. So person on the street that has a day job that is more manual may not be the first adopter of this technology and it may not seem obvious to them. But then what's the relevance of cloud to Brenda and Brighton? Well, actually, you end up using it all around you. You don't care how it works, it just does. I don't care that Netflix happens to use the cloud. It's just, I get my movies and they're instant. And 20 years ago, video on the internet seemed like a crazy idea. What does it matter to Brenda and Brighton? 20 years forward, it's everywhere, and it just happens to be the technology behind the scenes. We will head in a similar way.
Here comes more of my hypothesis about how it actually works. I'm an engineer, so maybe I have no idea, but this is how I've sort of gauged things. Crypto is more like HTTPS than it is the mobile phone. So what I mean by this is the mobile phone was a pervasive technology that everyone was aware about. Everyone saw everyone else with a mobile phone. They wanted that mobile phone. It really unlocked a lot to their life. It made a difference. I actually think crypto can make a huge difference to people's lives.
We believe that this can transform the lives of everybody on the planet. And
I actually think crypto can make a huge difference to people's lives, but it won't be in the same way. It won't be something that's so visible. It'll actually be something that is similar to HTTPS, which is prior to that, the internet was just HTTP. It had no encryption. The S stands for secure. And you don't notice it, but every single time you're typing something in your URL, it actually has that S there. And that means we've secured the internet, I'm just using blanket terms here, without sort of people realizing this. And this is where I think crypto will come into play. I think a lot of it, people won't actually understand that you have changed their lives. They won't realize that you've protected them from the centralized authorities that maybe once every 30 years collapse spectacularly. It'll be all underneath.
I've said for a while, the crypto needs to go into the background and the money into the foreground and the UX into the foreground.
And so that's where I think crypto is heading. And so with that in mind, what I feel like as engineers we need to be focusing on, rather than just the speed aspect of stuff, is let's try have a system where the user verifies everything every time and without them even knowing it. So it looks as if they're still using the same banking system. It looks like they're still using the same Airbnb, Splitwise, Ticketmaster, whatever, you name it, that could be decentralized. They just don't realize that they're better off because they're in a much more secure because of decentralization.
So paying attention to detail, you can see, again, in my personal opinion, hopefully this video breakdown created an interactive environment for you all to start getting the brain juices flowing, that Celestia to some degree is making developments that are actively important in this space and are keeping up with the moving tides. Hopefully, again, these couple of video breakdowns reading in tandem with these fundamentals have shown you guys that instead of doing I'm just going to read the tokenomics and talk about how bullish I am on the project, physically showing you guys how Celestia is relatable to ongoing developments, right? Keeping up with the moving tides. Now, I mentioned to you guys that I will go over the TA on Celestia. So another reason why I'm adding this to my portfolio is you can see that in 2024, at the beginning of the year, when all of those positive developments and fundamentals were taking place, Celestia ran up to over $21 per coin. So from the peak of its 2024 high, it has significantly declined in value along with the rest of the cryptocurrency market, given the most recent market pullback that we've experienced, and is currently over 69% discounted from its 2024 high. Now, for me as an investor, for my long-term portfolio, what I look for is that risk to the downside is minimized or mitigated compared to the reward and upside potential. And for this specific digital asset, my current buy limits are where we sit at right now, underneath of roughly about $7. I will continue to dollar cost average into this project. Now, I do have some buy limits at lower levels at roughly around $3 to $2.50, which would be absolutely phenomenal if they did get hit and came into fruition. But just looking at this model right here, the risk to the downside if this project went to zero is bare minimum compared to if this project flipped bullish and went back to the upside, just revisiting its all-time high from 2024. Again, this isn't even taking into consideration the exponential growth in the blockchain and crypto ecosystem that we're set to see over the next 2 to 5 years. This is just taking into consideration if from current price, Celestia would go back to its all-time high. Again, in my personal opinion, adding this to my long-term bag because of the current risk to reward. The risk to the downside compared to the reward via the upside potential, if we just return back to the all-time high, is significantly in favor of dollar cost averaging into this specific project. Again, always attempting to show you guys some really good, valuable information. This is not financial advice. These are just reasons, hopefully breaking that down for you guys in the form of video clips and fundamentals. Actually got the brain juices flowing for you all and showing you guys the RR on this specific project, in my personal opinion, is a win long-term. Even if the total valuation of the cryptocurrency market does decrease in value and we see a further decline in price in this specific digital asset, I will continue to buy more as long as price is underneath of $7 for the TIA token. As always, many blessings to you guys. Keep in mind that none of this is financial advice. I just thought that I'd create a more interactive way showing you guys what projects I'm dollar cost averaging and why, instead of reading tokenomics and going over boring stuff, really integrating my research into the video material that I provide for you guys on YouTube. Do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video breakdown. Take it upon yourself to go research a little bit more in depth into this project yourself. And with that being said, I will see you all on the next video breakdown.